I learned what fear tasted like when I was 8 years old. It tasted like copper, the metallic tang of blood that my Omega father would try to hide with long sleeves and forced smiles. It sounded like breaking glass, like furniture overturning, like my father's desperate pleas for mercy that never came. My alpha father, Park Miho, was a low-class factory worker who came home every night reeking of alcohol and rage, looking for someone weaker to destroy. My name is Park Duwon and I am that someone's son. Duwona, my Omega father would whisper to me on those nights when the bruises were fresh and the pain too much to hide. We'd huddle together in my small room while my alpha father passed out in the living room. Promise me something. Promise me you'll never be weak. Promise me you'll never let anyone break you the way I've been broken. His hands would shake as he held my face, his beautiful features, the same ones I inherited, marred by purple and yellow bruises. My Omega father had once been breathtaking, everyone said so. But years of abuse had dimmed that light, leaving only a man who flinched at sudden movements and apologized for existing. I promise, Appa, I would say, my small hands gripping his. I promise I'll be strong. And I kept that promise. By the time I turned 15, I had spent years documenting everything. Photographs of injuries, video recordings of my father's drunken rampages, medical records that my Omega father thought were hidden. I was meticulous, patient, waiting for the right moment. When it came, I didn't hesitate. The police arrived on a Tuesday evening. My alpha father was arrested, his face a mask of shock and betrayal as he looked at me standing beside the officers. But I felt no guilt, only cold satisfaction as they led him away in handcuffs. You little bastard, he spat at me. You'll regret this. You're nothing but a weak Omega, just like your pathetic father. I looked him straight in the eye and smiled. I'm nothing like Appa, I said quietly. I'm stronger than you'll ever be. The restraining order was approved. Prison time was mandatory. My Omega father cried that night, but for the first time they were tears of relief. 10 years later, I had become someone even my younger self wouldn't recognize. At 25, I stood 6 feet tall with a build that made people do double takes. Yes, I was an Omega. My scent of jasmine and rain gave that away, but I was far from the delicate, submissive stereotype. Years of martial arts training, street fights, and sheer determination had sculpted me into something different. Something dangerous. My face, unfortunately, had inherited all of my Omega father's beauty, sharp jawline, full lips, intense dark eyes that seemed to look straight through people. My black hair was usually styled back, revealing features that made both alphas and Omegas stare. I hated the attention, but I'd learned to use it to my advantage. I'd become a gangster. Not the kind that dealt in drugs or human trafficking. I had standards. I protected people, ran an underground network that helped domestic violence victims escape their abusers, and made sure that monsters like my father faced consequences. The streets knew my name, knew that Park Duwon didn't back down from anyone, especially alphas. I'd built walls around my heart so high that even I couldn't see over them anymore. Every alpha I encountered reminded me of my father, their dominant pheromones, their entitled attitudes, their assumption that Omegas were property. I'd fought more alphas than I could count, sent plenty to the hospital, and developed a reputation as the Omega who couldn't be controlled. Duwon, you're going to die alone if you keep this up, my Omega father would say gently during our weekly dinners. He'd recovered somewhat over the years, found work at a flower shop, even smiled sometimes. Not all alphas are like your father. I don't care, I'd reply, pushing food around my plate. I don't need an alpha. I don't need anyone. But he'd just shake his head, that knowing look in his eyes that irritated me. Everyone needs someone, my son. Even you. I'd change the subject. I always did. It was a Wednesday night in late autumn when my life changed forever, though I didn't know it yet. I just finished persuading a particularly persistent alpha to leave his Omega wife alone. Persuasion in my world involved broken bones and very clear threats, and was taking a shortcut through the maze of alleys in Gangnam. The October air was crisp, carrying the scent of street food and exhaust. That's when I smelled it, blood, fresh and metallic, mixed with an alpha scent that was surprisingly clean, like expensive cologne, and something darker, more complex. Cedar and smoke, maybe. Annoyingly appealing. I should have walked away. That was my rule. Alphas could bleed out in alleys for all I cared. They'd never helped Omegas in distress, so why should I return the favor? But then I saw him. He was slumped against the brick wall, barely conscious, his expensive suit torn and soaked with blood. Even in the dim streetlight, I could see he was devastatingly handsome. Tall, probably 6'3", with sharp, aristocratic features, high cheekbones, and dark hair falling over his forehead. His eyes fluttered open briefly, and even through the pain they were striking, dark and intense, like staring into deep water. "Help," he managed to whisper, his voice rough. "Please." Every instinct screamed at me to leave. He was an alpha. He probably deserved whatever happened to him. But something in those eyes, desperation, yes, but also a strange vulnerability that I'd never seen in an alpha before, made me pause. "Fuck," I muttered, crouching beside him against my better judgment. "This is a mistake. This is such a fucking mistake." But I couldn't leave him to die. Damn my conscience. Getting him back to my apartment was a nightmare. He was heavy, muscular, and kept drifting in and out of consciousness. My place wasn't much, a 2-bedroom apartment I'd paid for with money from various jobs. But it was clean and, more importantly, had medical supplies. You didn't survive in my line of work without knowing how to patch up injuries. I laid him on my bed, the only place large enough, and cut away his ruined shirt. Knife wounds, at least 3 of them, along with various bruises and contusions. Whoever did this had meant to kill him. "Stay with me," I commanded, pressing gauze against the worst wound. His eyes fluttered open again, focusing on me with difficulty. "Don't you dare die on me after I dragged your heavy ass up 4 flights of stairs." "Omega," he murmured, his alpha instincts recognizing my secondary gender despite his condition. "You're beautiful." "Shut up and conserve your energy," I snapped, but felt my cheeks heat traitorously. "I'm stitching you up, so this is going to hurt like hell. Bite down on this." I shoved a leather belt between his teeth and got to work. For 3 weeks, the alpha remained unconscious in my bed while I slept on the couch. I tended to his wounds with the efficiency of someone who'd patched up plenty of injuries, including my own, changing bandages, monitoring for infection, making sure he stayed hydrated through and 4 drip I'd acquired. During that time, I tried not to notice how handsome he was. Tried not to notice how his scent, cedar and smoke, had permeated my apartment in a way that wasn't entirely unpleasant. Tried not to notice how sometimes in his fevered dreams, he'd call out names I didn't recognize, his brow furrowing with concern. My Omega father visited once, took one look at the unconscious alpha, and gave me that knowing smile again. "Don't start," I warned him. "I'm just keeping him alive until he wakes up. Then he's out of here." "Of course, Duana," my father said, but his eyes sparkled with something that looked suspiciously like hope. "You're just being charitable. It has nothing to do with the fact that you check on him every hour." "I check to make sure he's not dying in my bed," I protested. It would be a pain to explain a dead alpha to the police. But even I didn't believe my own words. On the 22nd day I was changing his bandages when his hand suddenly shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. My combat instincts kicked in immediately. I could have broken his arm in 3 different ways, but something made me freeze. His eyes were open, fully conscious. And they were the most intense eyes I'd ever seen, dark and penetrating, studying me with an intelligence that sent a shiver down my spine. "You're awake," I said unnecessarily, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Don't move too much. Your stitches might tear." He released my wrist slowly, his gaze never leaving my face. "How long?" 3 weeks, give or take. "You were pretty fucked up when I found you." I stepped back, putting professional distance between us. "Do you remember what happened?" His jaw tightened, and I saw a flash of something dangerous in those eyes, something that reminded me that this was an alpha, probably a powerful one. "Business dispute. It got physical." "That's one way to describe multiple stab wounds," I said dryly. "Must have been some dispute." "Who are you?" he asked, pushing himself up slightly despite my earlier warning. I noticed he moved with the controlled pain of someone used to injuries. "Why did you help me?" "You're an Omega." There it was. That alpha assumption that Omegas were weak, helpless creatures who needed protection. My walls slammed back into place. "I'm Park Duan," I said coldly. "And yes, I'm an Omega, but not the kind you're probably used to. I helped you because..." I paused, not sure how to explain it even to myself. "Because I couldn't let you die, even though every instinct told me to walk away. You're an alpha, and I don't particularly like alphas." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. "I gathered that from the way you say alpha, like it's a curse word." "For me it is," I replied bluntly. My alpha father abused my Omega father for 15 years. I watched him destroy a beautiful man piece by piece until there was nothing left but fear and pain. So yes, I have issues with alphas. All of them. I expected him to argue, to defend his kind, to give me the typical alpha bullshit about not all alphas being the same. Instead, he just watched me with those intense eyes, and I saw something that looked almost like understanding. Thank you, he said quietly, for saving my life despite your very valid reasons not to. I shrugged, uncomfortable with his gratitude. Don't read too much into it. Once you're healed enough, you're leaving. I don't do charity cases. What's your price then? He asked, and there was something in his tone that made my omega instincts flare with awareness. Everyone wants something. I want you gone, I said flatly. That's my price. Recover and leave me alone. But even as I said it, some part of me knew it was already too late for that. Over the next week, the alpha, who still hadn't told me his name, recovered with impressive speed. Alphas healed faster than omegas or betas, but this was different. This was the healing rate of someone who had access to the best medical care, the best nutrition, someone whose body was a well-maintained machine. He'd also started watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. Every time I entered the room, those dark eyes would track my movements. Not in a threatening way, but with a focus that felt almost predatory. It should have pissed me off. Instead, it made my omega biology react in ways I absolutely hated. My scent would sweeten slightly, my body temperature would rise, and I'd have to forcibly suppress the urge to present. I was not that kind of omega. I refused to be. You're a fighter, he observed one evening as I was preparing dinner. He'd finally been cleared to walk around, though he moved stiffly. I can tell from your stance the way you move. Combat training? Mixed martial arts, street fighting, whatever keeps me alive, I replied without turning around. In my line of work, you learn to defend yourself or you die. What line of work is that? I turned to face him, crossing my arms. I'm a gangster. I help people who can't help themselves, usually domestic violence victims. I also beat the shit out of abusers who think they can get away with hurting omegas. So yeah, I need to know how to fight. Instead of looking shocked or disapproving, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his severe features into something almost devastating. You're extraordinary. I felt my cheeks heat and turned back to the stove. I'm practical. There's a difference. You're fierce, protective, and brave enough to help an alpha despite your trauma, he continued, moving closer. I could feel the heat of his body behind me, smell that cedar and smoke scent that made my omega instincts purr. That's extraordinary, Park Do-won. Stop it, I said, my voice harsher than intended. I don't need your alpha charm or whatever game you're playing. Just eat, heal, and leave. What if I don't want to leave? The question hung in the air between us, loaded with implications that made my heart race. I forced myself to turn around to meet those intense eyes directly. You don't have a choice, I said coldly. This isn't your world. I'm not some omega you can seduce with pretty words and alpha pheromones. I'm a gangster who has killed people, who has blood on his hands, who will never submit to any alpha. So stop whatever this is before you embarrass us both. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. But first I should tell you my name. It's Kang Jae-min. The name meant nothing to me immediately, but something in the way he said it, carefully watching for my reaction, made me pause. Should that mean something to me? Probably not, given your profession, he said with a slight smile. But I should be honest with you. I'm not just any alpha, Do-won. I'm the CEO of Kang Industries, one of the largest conglomerates in South Korea. The rice cooker chose that moment to beep, but I barely heard it. I was too busy processing what he just said. Kang Industries. The name everyone knew. The company that owned half of Seoul's real estate, had fingers in everything from technology to pharmaceuticals to entertainment. And their CEO, notoriously private, ruthless in business, with a reputation for destroying competitors, had been bleeding out in an alley. In my bed for 3 weeks. Eating my food. Get out, I said quietly. Do-won. Get out. I shouted, my omega distress scent filling the apartment. Rain and jasmine turned sharp and bitter. I don't care if you're not fully healed. I don't care if whoever attacked you is still out there. You lied to me. You let me think you were just some random alpha when you're... I laughed bitterly. You're more dangerous than anyone I've ever fought. You're the kind of man who destroys people for profit. That's not fair, Jae-min said, his alpha pheromones flaring in response to my distress, trying to calm me. It only made me angrier. Don't you dare try to soothe me with your alpha scent, I snarled, grabbing a knife from the counter, not to threaten him, just to have something in my hand, something that made me feel less vulnerable. I saved your life. The least you could have done was be honest about who you are. Would you have helped me if you knew? He asked quietly. If you knew I was Kang Jae-min, would you have stopped? The question stopped me cold because we both knew the answer. I wouldn't have. I would have left him to die in that alley because men like him, powerful, wealthy alphas who controlled the world, were exactly the type I despised. Exactly, he said, reading my silence correctly. I didn't tell you because I needed to be just a man for a while. Not a CEO, not a weapon in business wars, just someone you save because you're fundamentally good despite your best efforts to pretend otherwise. I'm not good, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I'm a killer. I'm everything you should stay away from. He moved closer, ignoring the knife in my hand, his eyes burning with an intensity that made my breath catch. What if I don't want to stay away? What if these past 3 weeks, watching you, learning who you are, what if I've fallen for you, Park Do-won? Then you're an idiot, I whispered, but I couldn't step back, couldn't break eye contact. Gangsters don't fall in love. Broken omegas don't get happy endings. This isn't a fairy tale. No, he agreed, his hand coming up to cup my face with surprising gentleness. His thumb traced my cheekbone and I hated how I leaned into the touch. It's better than a fairy tale. It's real. Messy and complicated and real. I hate alphas, I said weakly, my last defense crumbling. I know, he murmured, leaning closer. Hate me if you need to. But let me stay. Let me prove that not all alphas are like your father. Let me. I kissed him before he could finish, dropping the knife to grab his shirt and pull him against me. It was aggressive, desperate, my teeth catching his bottom lip hard enough to draw blood. He groaned into my mouth, his hands sliding into my hair, gripping tight enough to sting. This wasn't a gentle first kiss. It was a battle, a claiming, both of us fighting for dominance even as we gave in to the attraction that had been building for weeks. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he smiled, predatory and possessive in a way that should have terrified me. I'm not leaving, he said firmly. Not now. Not ever. You're mine, Park Do-won. I'm not anyone's, I snarled back, but even I could smell how my scent had sweetened with arousal. And if you want me, you'll have to earn it, CO Kong. I don't submit easily. His eyes darkened with desire. Good. I wouldn't want you any other way. Kang Jae-min did not make courting easy, in fact he made it infuriatingly persistent. After that first kiss, he'd return to his penthouse to recover fully and handle the business rivals who'd attacked him. I'd expected that to be the end of it, that he'd realize a gangster Omega was beneath his status and move on with his life. I should have known better. The flowers started arriving the next day, not delicate roses or lilies, but striking arrangements of dark calla lilies and black orchids that matched my aesthetic. The cards were simple, thinking of you, Jay. Then came the food deliveries from expensive restaurants, the gifts that showed he'd actually been paying attention. New combat boots in my exact size, a custom leather jacket, books on martial arts philosophy. He's wooing you, my Omega father said with poorly concealed delight when I showed him the latest gift, a first edition of The Art of War. That's a good sign, Duana. He's trying. He's annoying, I grumbled, but I'd kept every single gift, displayed them in my apartment like trophies. Alphas think they can buy anything. Is he trying to buy you, or is he trying to show you he sees you? My father asked gently, in that wise way that always made me uncomfortable. I didn't have an answer for that. Jae-min himself appeared regularly, showing up at my apartment with takeout, sitting with me while I ate, never pressuring for more than conversation. He told me about his life. The pressure of running a conglomerate, the constant battles with competitors, the loneliness of being at the top. Everyone wants something from me, he said one evening as we sat on my couch, a safe distance between us. Power, money, connections. No one sees just me. You saw you, I replied quietly. When you were vulnerable, bleeding out, you were just a man. That's who I saved. He turned to look at me, those intense eyes softening. And that's who I want to be with you. Not CEO Kong, just Jae-min. Is that possible? I wanted to say no. Wanted to protect myself, maintain my walls, keep him at a distance. But the truth was, I was already falling, already imagining what it might be like to trust him. Maybe, I admitted. But I'm not easy, Jae-min. I have trauma, anger issues, trust problems. I'll push you away. I'll test you constantly. I'm not some sweet Omega who'll make your life comfortable. I don't want comfortable, he said, moving closer, his hand finding mine. I want real. I want you with all your sharp edges and defensive walls. I want to earn your trust, Do-won. However long it takes. The sincerity in his voice broke something in me. I pulled him close and kissed him again, slower this time, less desperate. His hands were gentle as they cupped my face, tilting my head for better access, his tongue sliding against mine in a dance that made my Omega biology sing. When his hand slid under my shirt, caressing the skin of my lower back, I shivered. When he pulled back to look at me, eyes dark with desire, I made a decision. Stay, I whispered. Tonight. Stay with me. The air between us felt electric, charged with weeks of tension finally about to break. Jaemin's eyes were dark with desire, his alpha scent intensifying, cedar and smoke with an underlying musk that made my omega biology respond in ways I'd spent years suppressing. Are you sure? He asked, his voice rough, his hand still warm against the skin of my lower back. I don't want you to regret this, Duan. Once we do this. I never do anything I'll regret, I interrupted, pulling him closer by his shirt collar. And I don't want gentle. I'm not some delicate omega who'll break. If we're doing this, we're doing it my way. A dangerous smile curved his lips. And what way is that? Instead of answering, I pushed him back against the couch and straddled his lap, grinding down against him deliberately. I felt his sharp intake of breath, the way his hands immediately gripped my hips hard enough to bruise. Good. I wanted to feel it tomorrow, wanted physical proof that this was real. My way means I'm not submitting to you just because you're an alpha, I said, my lips brushing against his ear. You want me? You'll have to earn every touch, every sound I make. Understand? His hands tightened on my hips, pulling me harder against the growing hardness I could feel through his pants. I've never wanted to earn something more in my entire life. I captured his mouth in a brutal kiss, all teeth and tongue in desperate need. This wasn't romantic or sweet. It was raw, primal, both of us fighting for dominance even as we gave in to the attraction that had been building since the moment I'd found him bleeding in that alley. Jaemin's hand slid under my shirt, his touch burning against my skin as he mapped the planes of my stomach, my chest, finding the scars I'd collected over years of fighting. Instead of being repelled, he traced them with something like reverence. Every scar tells a story, he murmured against my lips. Stories of survival, of strength. You're magnificent, Duan. I didn't know how to respond to that kind of praise, so I silenced him with another kiss, rocking my hips against him in a rhythm that had us both groaning. His alpha pheromones were flooding my senses now, making my skin feel too tight, making slick start to gather between my thighs in preparation. My omega biology betraying me even as I tried to maintain control. Bedroom, I managed to gasp out, pulling back slightly. Now. We barely made it. Jaemin lifted me effortlessly, and I hated how much I liked that show of alpha strength, carrying me down the hall while I wrapped my legs around his waist and attacked his neck with my teeth, leaving marks that would be visible for days. Claiming him even as he was claiming me. He kicked open my bedroom door and laid me down on the bed with surprising gentleness despite the urgency between us. For a moment he just looked at me, sprawled across the sheets, my shirt rucked up, my hair mussed, my lips swollen from kissing. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, he said, his voice raw with honesty that made my chest tight. Shut up and touch me, I demanded because vulnerability felt too dangerous, too much like surrender. He smiled that predatory smile again and slowly, deliberately, pulled his shirt over his head. I'd seen him shirtless plenty of times while treating his wounds, but this was different. This was Jaemin offering himself to me, the lean muscles and defined abs on display, the scars from his attack still healing but somehow making him more attractive. Proof that he was a survivor too. I reached up and traced one of the scars, the one I'd stitched myself, remembering how vulnerable he'd been, how human. You could have died. But I didn't, he said, catching my hand and bringing it to his lips. You saved me. In more ways than one. Then he was covering my body with his weight pressing me into the mattress in a way that should have felt confining but instead felt safe. His lips found mine again, slower this time, more thorough, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. His hands worked at my clothes and I helped him, both of us stripping away layers until there was nothing between us but skin and heat and want. When his hand wrapped around my cock, I arched off the bed with a gasp, my omega slick intensifying as pleasure shot through me. So responsive, he murmured appreciatively, his thumbs swiping over the sensitive head, spreading the pre-cum that had gathered there. I want to learn every sound you make, every touch that drives you crazy. Less talking, I gritted out, my hand finding his cock and stroking firmly, satisfaction flooding through me when he groaned and thrust into my grip. More action. He laughed, actually laughed, and then his mouth was on my neck, finding my scent gland, the most sensitive part of an omega's body. When his teeth grazed it, not biting, just threatening, I nearly came apart right there. Fuck, I gasped, my hands digging into his shoulders hard enough to leave marks. Jaemin. I've got you, he promised, his hand leaving my cock to slide lower, between my thighs where slick had made me embarrassingly wet. When his fingers found my entrance, circling teasingly, I bit down on his shoulder to muffle the needy sound that tried to escape. He worked me open slowly, too slowly, one finger then two, finding that spot inside me that made me see stars. I'd done this to myself before, alone in this bed, but having someone else, having him, was entirely different. More intense. More overwhelming. "You're so tight," he groaned against my neck, his fingers moving in and out in a rhythm that had me rocking my hips shamelessly. "So perfect. I want to be inside you, Duan. Want to feel you around me." "Then stop teasing and do it," I demanded, though my voice came out breathier than I intended. "Unless the big, powerful CEO can't handle." He swallowed the rest of my taunt with a kiss and positioned himself at my entrance. The first press of his cock had us both freezing, the sensation overwhelming. He was bigger than his fingers, stretching me in a way that bordered on too much, and for a moment my body resisted. "Breathe," he murmured, his forehead pressed against mine, his body trembling with the effort of holding still. "I've got you. We'll go slow." "I don't want slow," I said through gritted teeth, wrapping my legs around his waist and using the leverage to pull him deeper. The burn was intense but not unbearable, and the look of pure ecstasy on his face made it worth it. "Duan," he groaned my name like a prayer, his hips starting to move in shallow thrusts that gradually went deeper. "God, you feel incredible." I couldn't form words anymore, could only hold on to him as he set a rhythm that had pleasure building in my core, each thrust hitting that perfect spot inside me. My omega biology had fully taken over now, my body producing more slick to ease the way, my scent filling the room with aroused jasmine and rain. "Mine," Jamin growled against my neck, his alpha possessiveness showing through. "Say you're mine, Duan." The demand should have pissed me off, should have made me fight back. But in this moment, with him inside me, surrounding me, making me feel things I'd never allowed myself to feel, I couldn't deny it. "Yours?" I gasped out and felt him shudder above me. "But you're mine too. Say it." "Yours," he promised immediately, his pace increasing, harder now, exactly what I needed. "Always yours. Only yours." The pleasure built to an unbearable peak, my cock trapped between our bodies, the friction and the fullness and the sheer intensity of the connection overwhelming my senses. When Jamin's hand wrapped around me, stroking in time with his thrusts, I lost the battle with control. I came with a shout that I barely recognized as my own voice, my body clamping down around him, waves of pleasure rolling through me so intense I thought I might pass out. Distantly, I felt Jamin follow me over the edge, his body going rigid, his cock pulsing inside me as he filled me with his release, his teeth finally biting down on my scent gland. Not a mating bite, not yet, but close enough that it sent another aftershock of pleasure through me. We collapsed together, both breathing hard, our bodies still connected, covered in sweat and satisfied in a way I'd never experienced before. Jamin carefully rolled us onto our sides, keeping himself inside me, his arms wrapping around me possessively. "That was..." he started, then laughed softly. "I don't have words." "Me either," I admitted, my usual defenses too shattered to rebuild just yet. I could feel his release inside me, warm and intimate, mixed with my own slick. My omega biology was purring with satisfaction, content in a way that terrified and thrilled me simultaneously. "Stay tonight," I said quietly. "Don't leave yet." "I'm not going anywhere," he promised, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Not tonight. Not ever if you'll let me." I turned in his arms to face him, studying those intense eyes that now looked at me with such open affection it made my chest hurt. "I'm still not easy, Jamin. This doesn't fix my trauma or my trust issues. I'll still push you away sometimes. I'll still be a gangster who does dangerous things. I'll still hate most alphas." "I know," he said simply, his hand coming up to cup my face. "And I'll still be here. Patient. Persistent. Falling more in love with you every day." "You're insane," I whispered, but my hand covered his, holding it against my cheek. "Probably," he agreed with a smile. "But you're worth the insanity." We stayed like that, wrapped around each other as the night deepened outside my window. Eventually, he slipped out of me with a gentleness that made me shiver, and I immediately missed the connection. He cleaned us both up with a warm cloth, his touch tender, caring for me in a way that felt foreign but not unwelcome. When he climbed back into bed and pulled me against his chest, I didn't protest. Just let myself be held, let myself feel safe for the first time in longer than I could remember. "I need to tell you something," Jamin said into the darkness, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. "Those men who attack me, they're not done. Being with me puts you in danger, Duan. Real danger from people who won't hesitate to use you against me." I snorted softly. "I'm a gangster, remember? Danger is kind of my thing. Besides," I tilted my head to look up at him, "I can protect myself. And you if it comes to that." He smiled, but there was worry in his eyes. I don't doubt your capabilities. But these aren't street thugs or abusive alphas. These are powerful people with resources and connections. Then we'll be powerful together, I said firmly. You've got your business empire, I've got my network in the streets. Anyone who comes after us will regret it. The fierce pride in his expression made my omega purr with satisfaction. We're going to be terrifying together, aren't we? Absolutely, I agreed, settling back against his chest. But right now I'm tired and sore and I need sleep. So shut up and be a pillow. His laugh rumbled through his chest beneath my ear. Yes, sir. I fell asleep like that, surrounded by cedar and smoke, feeling safer than I had in years, not knowing that in 6 weeks, everything would change again. That the life growing inside me, already beginning its journey, would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself. But for tonight I let myself have this. Let myself be happy even if I didn't quite believe it would last. 6 weeks later, I was bent over a toilet in my apartment, throwing up for the 3rd morning in a row. This is fucking ridiculous, I muttered, wiping my mouth with shaking hands. I don't get sick. I never get sick. But it wasn't just the nausea. My sense of smell had become hypersensitive. I'd nearly punched one of my crew members yesterday because his cologne was so overwhelming I couldn't breathe. My body ached in strange places. And most concerning of all, my scent had changed subtly, the jasmine and rain taking on a sweeter, warmer undertone that I didn't recognize. I'd been ignoring it, telling myself it was stress or maybe I'd caught some virus. But when I collapsed during a fight, actually collapsed, something that had never happened before, my Omega father had dragged me to a clinic run by a friend of his. The doctor, an older beta woman with kind eyes, had taken one look at me and ordered a blood test. Now I sat in her office, waiting for results I was sure would tell me I had some infection or exhaustion or anything other than what the sinking feeling in my gut was suggesting. Park Do-won, Dr. Kim said as she entered, holding a tablet. Her expression was carefully neutral. Your test results are back. Just tell me what's wrong so I can get the medication and leave, I said impatiently. I have work to do. She sat down across from me, folding her hands on the desk. There's nothing wrong, Do-won. You're healthy. But you are pregnant. About 6 weeks along from what the hormone levels indicate. The world seemed to tilt sideways. That's not possible. You're a male omega, she said gently. It's absolutely possible. Rare, yes, but... No, I interrupted, standing up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. No, I can't be pregnant. I'm a gangster. I fight people. I can't. My breath was coming too fast, panic clawing at my chest. This isn't happening. Do-won, sit down before you hyperventilate, Dr. Kim commanded in a tone that brooked no argument. Years of following orders kicked in and I sat. I understand this is shocking, but it's real. You're carrying a child. I can't be pregnant, I repeated, my voice breaking. Especially not with... I couldn't even finish the sentence. Especially not with an alpha's child. Especially not when I'd spent my whole life avoiding this exact situation, watching what pregnancy and bonding had done to my Omega father, how it had trapped him with a monster. The father, Dr. Kim said carefully. Does he know? I shook my head mutely. Jaemin. God, what would Jaemin think? We'd been together for 6 weeks, seeing each other regularly, growing closer despite my continued resistance. He'd been patient, persistent, slowly breaking down my walls. But a baby? That was permanent. That was a chain I couldn't break, connecting me to an alpha forever. I need to think. I managed, standing again. Don't tell anyone. Not yet. That's your choice to make, she said. But Do-won, you need to start taking care of yourself. No more fighting. Your body is going through significant changes and stress could... I said I need to think. I cut her off and left before she could say anything else. I went to my Omega father's apartment because I didn't know where else to go. He took one look at my face and pulled me inside, settling me on his couch with tea I couldn't stomach. Tell me, he said simply. So I did. All of it spilled out. The nausea, the doctor's visit, the positive test, my absolute terror at being pregnant with an alpha's child. My father listened without interrupting, his expression compassionate and understanding. I can't do this, Appa, I whispered when I finally ran out of words. I can't be like you. I can't be trapped by an alpha and a child. I can't. Stop, he said gently but firmly. Do you wanna look at me? I met his eyes, seeing the strength there that I'd forgotten he possessed. My Omega father had survived 15 years of abuse and come out the other side. He was stronger than I'd given him credit for. First, you are nothing like me, he said. You are fierce and strong and capable of protecting yourself in ways I never was. Second, Kang Jaemin is nothing like your father. I've seen the way he looks at you, the way he courts you with such patience and respect. He loves you, Do-won. Love doesn't matter when there's a child involved, I said bitterly. A child changes everything. It makes you vulnerable. It gives the alpha power over you. Only if you let it, my father replied. A child is not a chain, my son. It's a choice. And Jaemin has never tried to control you, has he? Never tried to dominate or force you into submission? I had to admit he was right. Jaemin had been surprisingly respectful of my boundaries, had never used his alpha authority to command me, had actually seemed to enjoy my defiance and strength. What if he changes? I asked quietly, voicing my deepest fear. What if having a child makes him possessive and controlling? What if he becomes like? Then you do what you've always done, my father said, taking my hands. You fight back. You protect yourself and your child. But Do-won, you can't live your whole life afraid of what might happen. You can't let your father's abuse steal your chance at happiness. I'm a gangster, I said weakly. Gangsters don't have babies. They don't have happy families. They die young and violent. Then maybe it's time to reconsider what kind of life you want, he suggested gently. You became a gangster to protect people, to fight against abuse. That's noble. But you can protect your child without sacrificing your own happiness. You can have both, Do-won. Love and strength. Family and independence. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But the fear was overwhelming, the memory of my father's fists and my Omega father's tears too vivid. Talk to Jaemin, my father urged. Tell him. Give him a chance to prove what kind of alpha he really is. And then make your decision based on reality, not fear. I called Jaemin that evening, asking him to come to my apartment. He arrived within the hour, concern evident on his face as I let him in. What's wrong? He asked immediately, his alpha instincts picking up on my distress. Are you hurt? Did something happen? Sit down, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk. The concern intensified, but he sat on my couch, giving me space. I paced in front of him, trying to find the words, trying to figure out how to tell an alpha CEO that he was going to be a father. I went to the doctor today, I finally said. I've been sick, nauseous, tired. I thought it was stress or an infection or something. What did they say? His voice was tight with worry. Do-won, what's wrong? I stopped pacing and looked at him directly. I'm pregnant. 6 weeks. It's yours. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. I watched emotions flicker across Jaemin's face, shock, disbelief, and then something that looked like wonder. He stood slowly, moving toward me with the careful movements of someone approaching something precious and fragile. You're pregnant, he repeated, his voice rough with emotion. We're having a baby. I'm pregnant, I corrected sharply, my defenses slamming into place. I'm having a baby? You're just... I couldn't finish, couldn't articulate the fear and confusion roiling inside me. I'm the father, Jaemin said firmly, his hands coming up to cup my face. I'm going to be a father. Do-won, this is... He laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. This is incredible. Terrifying and unexpected and absolutely incredible. You're happy about this? I asked incredulously, trying to pull away, but his hands held me gently in place. I'm ecstatic, he said, his eyes bright with unshed tears. I know this isn't what we planned, I know it's unexpected, but Do-won, his thumb stroked my cheekbones. I love you. I want a life with you. And now we're going to have a child together. Our child. How could I be anything but happy? Because I'm a gangster, I said desperately. Because I fight people and I'm violent and I have no idea how to be a father. Because this makes everything complicated and permanent and I don't care, he interrupted. Do-won, listen to me. I fell in love with a fierce, strong, beautiful Omega who saved my life despite having every reason not to. I fell in love with your strength, your protectiveness, your refusal to submit. This baby doesn't change any of that. If anything, it makes me love you more. You can't just... This isn't... I was struggling for words, my carefully constructed walls crumbling under the weight of his sincerity. Are you keeping it? He asked quietly. The baby. Is that what you want? The question I'd been avoiding. I put my hand on my still flat stomach, trying to imagine a life growing inside me. A child. Half me, half Jaemin. A product of that night 6 weeks ago when I'd let my guard down and let him in. I don't know, I admitted. I'm terrified, Jaemin. I'm so fucking terrified of becoming like my Omega father, of being trapped, of losing myself to this. I don't know if I can do it. Then we'll figure it out together, he said, pulling me against his chest. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. If you want to keep the baby, I'll be there every step of the way. If you don't, I'll support that too. But please don't make this decision based on fear of what your father was. I'm not him. I will never be him. I buried my face in his chest, breathing in his scent, cedar and smoke mixed with my own jasmine and rain. For the first time since Dr. Kim had told me the news, I let myself really feel it. Terror, yes, but also something else. Something that felt almost like hope. I need time, I said finally. I need to think about this, about what it means, about whether I can do this. Take all the time you need, Jaemin promised, his hand stroking my back soothingly. I'm not going anywhere. The next few weeks were a storm of emotions and physical changes that left me reeling. My body was transforming in ways I'd never anticipated. The morning sickness intensified, leaving me weak and miserable. My scent continued to change, taking on that sweeter, maternal quality that made every alpha in a 5-block radius notice me. I'd had to stop going on jobs entirely when I nearly got into a fight with an alpha who'd gotten too close, drawn by my pregnancy pheromones. This is humiliating, I snarled at my reflection one morning, taking in my slightly softer features, the way my body was already starting to change. I look like some delicate omega. You look beautiful, Jaemin said from the doorway of my bathroom. He'd been staying over most nights, insisting on being there for the worst of the morning sickness. I look weak, I corrected bitterly. He moved behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist, his hands settling protectively over my stomach. You look like the strongest person I know, carrying our child. There's nothing weak about that. I wanted to argue, but the truth was that pregnancy was harder than any fight I'd ever been in. It was exhausting, painful, and completely out of my control. And I hated it. But slowly, despite my resistance, I started to adjust. Jaemin was infuriatingly perfect about the whole thing. He never tried to coddle me or treat me like I was fragile, but he was there for everything, holding my hair back when I was sick, bringing me food I could actually stomach, researching pregnancy in male omegas so he could understand what I was going through. Did you know that male omega pregnancies are actually riskier than female omega pregnancies? He said one evening, reading from his tablet. The maternal mortality rate is higher because of anatomical differences and… Are you trying to scare me? I interrupted, looking up from the book I'd been pretending to read. No, I'm trying to understand what you're going through so I can support you better, he said, setting the tablet aside. And I think you should stop working entirely. The stress isn't good for you or the baby. Absolutely not, I said flatly. I'm not becoming some helpless omega who sits around waiting for their alpha to provide for them. I'm not asking you to be helpless, Jaemin said patiently. I'm asking you to be smart. You collapsed during your last job, Duan. You could have been seriously hurt. I can take care of myself, I insisted stubbornly. I know you can, he agreed. But why should you have to when I can help? Let me take care of you. Please. It's not about dominance or control, it's about keeping you and our child safe. The our child still made my chest tight, but I was getting used to it. Against my better judgment, against every instinct that told me to keep my distance, I was starting to think of the baby as ours rather than just mine. Fine, I conceded reluctantly. I'll step back from active jobs. But I'm still running operations from here. I'm not becoming useless. His smile was radiant. Deal. Thank you for trusting me. Trust. It was getting easier even though it terrified me. At 12 weeks we went for our first ultrasound together. I'd been avoiding it, not wanting to make the pregnancy more real than it already was, but Jaemin had gently insisted. I want to see our baby, he'd said. And I think you do too, even if you won't admit it. The clinic was private, exclusive, the kind of place that catered to wealthy clients who valued discretion. Jaemin had arranged everything, ensuring we wouldn't have to deal with crowds or curious looks. The doctor, an experienced beta woman named Dr. Park, was professional and kind as she prepared for the scan. This might be a little cold, she warned as she applied gel to my stomach. I gripped Jaemin's hand tighter than necessary as the wand moved across my skin. And then, there, Dr. Park said, turning the screen toward us. There's your baby. It was tiny, barely visible, but unmistakably there. A small blob on the screen with a rapidly flickering heartbeat that filled the room with sound. Oh my God, Jaemin breathed, his grip on my hand almost painful. That's our baby. That's really our baby. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because seeing it, hearing that heartbeat, made it real in a way that nothing else had. That was a life inside me. A child. Half me, half Jaemin. real and growing and dependent on me for survival. The heartbeat is strong, Dr. Park said, smiling at our reactions. Everything looks healthy. You're doing great, Duan. Can you? I swallowed hard, my voice rough. Can you tell what it is? Boy or girl? It's too early for that, she explained. But we can find out at your 20-week scan if you want to know. I nodded mutely, unable to tear my eyes from the screen. After the appointment, Jaemin drove us back to my apartment in silence. When we got inside, I went straight to the couch and sat down heavily, still processing everything. Are you okay? Jaemin asked, sitting beside me. I don't know, I admitted. Seeing it like that, it makes it real. I can't pretend anymore that this isn't happening. Is that a bad thing? He asked carefully. I turned to look at him, this alpha who had somehow gotten past all my defenses. I'm scared, I confessed quietly. I'm terrified that I won't be a good father, that I'll mess this up, that I broke off, the words catching in my throat. That you'll become like your father? Jaemin finished gently. Duan, that's impossible. You're nothing like him. You're protective and fierce, and you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. You're going to be an incredible father. How can you be so sure? I asked, hating how vulnerable I sounded. Because I know you, he said simply, taking my hand. I've watched you for months now. I've seen your strength, your compassion, your unwavering sense of justice. Our child is lucky to have you as a father. Our child, I repeated, letting the words settle. I'm really doing this, aren't I? Keeping the baby. Only if that's what you want, Jaemin said, though I could see the hope in his eyes. I put my hand on my stomach, imagining that tiny life growing inside me. Yeah, I said finally. I want to keep it. I want this. With you. The joy on Jaemin's face was blinding. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight, and I let him. Let myself be held, be vulnerable, be something other than the hard, defensive gangster I'd built myself into. I love you, Jaemin murmured against my hair. I love you so much, Duan. And I'm going to spend every day proving that I'm worthy of you and our child. You already have, I admitted quietly. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love you too. It was the first time I'd said it out loud, and the words felt both terrifying and liberating. Jaemin pulled back to look at me, his eyes shining with emotion. Say it again, he demanded softly. I love you, I said, stronger this time. I still hate most alphas, and I'm still going to be difficult and stubborn and probably drive you crazy, but I love you, Kang Jaemin. He kissed me then, deep and thorough, pouring everything he felt into the connection. And for the first time since finding out I was pregnant, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. The pregnancy progressed with a mixture of difficulty and unexpected joy. My body continued to change, my stomach gradually swelling with the life growing inside me. At 20 weeks we learned we were having a girl, and I cried, at the news. A daughter. I was going to have a daughter. We need to think of names, Jaemin said one evening as we lay in bed, his hand resting on my prominent belly. Our daughter was active tonight, kicking against his palm in response to his touch. Something strong, I said immediately. I want her to be strong. Like her father, Jaemin agreed, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. What about Hayun? It means summer and kindness. Hayun, I tested the name, feeling our daughter kick as if in approval. Park Hayun. I like it. Kang Hayun, Jaemin corrected gently. I want her to have my name, Duan. I want us to be a real family. The old fear tried to surface, but I pushed it down. Jaemin had proven himself over and over again these past months. He'd been patient with my mood swings, my irrational anger, my moments of panic when the trauma from my childhood surfaced. He'd never once tried to control me or use my pregnancy to dominate me. Okay, I agreed. Kang Hayun. But I'm keeping my name. He smiled, understanding. I wouldn't expect anything else. The pregnancy wasn't without complications. At 30 weeks, I developed preeclampsia, high blood pressure that put both me and Hayun at risk. Dr. Park ordered strict bed rest, which I fought against until Jaemin literally carried me to bed and refused to let me leave. I hate this, I snarled, trapped under blankets while he worked from my bedside, his laptop balanced on his knees. I'm not some invalid. You're protecting our daughter, he corrected, not looking up from his screen. There's nothing weak about that. My Omega father visited regularly, bringing food and encouragement. Jaemin's mother, a formidable alpha woman who'd been skeptical of me initially, had warmed considerably when she learned about the pregnancy. And now treated me like precious cargo. You're good for my son, she told me during one visit, her sharp eyes assessing. He's happier than I've ever seen him. You've given him something to fight for beyond business. I didn't do anything, I protested. I'm just... You're exactly what he needed, she interrupted. Someone strong enough to stand beside him, not behind him. Don't sell yourself short, Do-won. At 37 weeks, my water broke during dinner. Jaemin, I gasped, gripping the edge of the table as the first contraction hit. It's time. The baby's coming. The carefully controlled CEO facade cracked, revealing pure panic. Now. But we have 3 weeks left. Tell that to your daughter, I gritted out through the pain. Hospital. Now. The drive to the hospital was a blur of contractions and Jaemin's increasingly frantic phone calls. By the time we arrived, I was in active labor, the pain unlike anything I'd experienced before. I can't do this, I gasped between contractions as they wheeled me into a delivery room. It hurts too much. I can't. Yes, you can, Jaemin said firmly, gripping my hand. You're the strongest person I know. You've survived abuse, built a life protecting others, created a whole human being inside you. You can do this, Do-won. I believe in you. The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of pain and exhaustion and Jaemin refusing to leave my side, letting me crush his hand, curse at him, blame him for getting me pregnant in the first place. He took it all without complaint, just kept encouraging me, kept believing in me. And then, finally, I heard it, the angry, healthy cry of a newborn. It's a girl, Dr. Park announced, placing the tiny, wriggling bundle on my chest. Congratulations. You have a beautiful daughter. I looked down at Hyun, at her tiny perfect face, her shock of dark hair, her eyes squinting against the light, and felt something inside me break open. All the fear, all the walls, all the defenses I'd spent years building shattered in an instant. Hi, baby girl, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I'm your appa. I've got you. I'll always protect you. Jaemin was crying too, his hand gentle on Hyun's head. She's perfect. She's absolutely perfect. She has your nose, I said, laughing through my tears. Poor thing. And your beauty, he countered, kissing my forehead. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me, for giving me this, his voice broke. For giving me a family. The first few weeks with Hyun were exhausting and overwhelming and more beautiful than I could have imagined. She was a demanding baby, waking every 2 hours to feed, but every time I held her, every time she grabbed my finger with her tiny hand, I fell more in love. Jaemin was a devoted father, taking paternity leave from work to be with us, learning to change diapers and handle night feedings. Watching him with Hyun, this powerful, ruthless CEO reduced to cooing nonsense at our daughter, did something to my heart. I never thought I could have this, I admitted one night as we sat together, Hyun sleeping peacefully between us. A family. Love. Happiness. I thought I was too broken, too damaged by what my father did. You were never broken, Jaemin said softly. You were protecting yourself. But Do-won, you don't have to protect yourself from me. From us. We're your family now. I looked at Hyun, then at Jaemin, and realized he was right. This was my family. This alpha who had loved me with patience and persistence, who had never tried to control or dominate me, who had given me the space to heal. This daughter who represented hope and new beginnings. Marry me, Jaemin said suddenly. I looked at him in shock. What? Marry me, he repeated, pulling a ring box from his pocket. Inside was a simple platinum band, elegant and understated. I know you don't need me, and I know you're independent and strong and capable on your own. But I want to be your partner officially. I want Hyun to grow up seeing her parents committed to each other. He took a breath. I want to spend the rest of my life loving you, Do-won. Will you marry me? I should have hesitated. Should have been scared. Should have pushed him away like I'd pushed everyone away my whole life. Instead I smiled. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. The kiss he gave me was gentle, mindful of our sleeping daughter between us, but it promised everything. Forever, partnership, love that wouldn't break under pressure. I love you, I whispered against his lips. Both of you. My family. Our family, Jaemin corrected, and I knew he was right. This was our family. Built not on dominance or submission, but on trust and love and the choice to be together. The gangster Omega who had never believed in love had found his home. Appa. Daddy. Watch me. I looked up from the paperwork I was reviewing, legitimate business now, running a non-profit that helped domestic violence victims, to see Hyun hanging upside down from the jungle gym in our backyard. She was 5 now, a perfect blend of Jaemin and me with his sharp features and my fierce independence. Be careful, sweetheart, Jaemin called from where he was grilling, his sleeves rolled up, looking domestic and content in a way that still made my heart flutter. "I'm always careful," Hyun shouted back, completely fearless as she flipped herself right side up. "I'm strong like Appa." "That's my girl," I said with pride, watching as she launched herself at the monkey bars with the confidence of someone who knew she could do anything. Jaemin came over and wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "She's going to give us heart attacks." "She's perfect," I countered, leaning back against him. "Just like her father's." "Modest as always," he teased, pressing a kiss to my neck, right over the mating bite he'd given me on our wedding night 2 years ago. The bite that had completed our bond, making us officially mates. Life hadn't been perfect. I still had nightmares sometimes, still struggled with trust, still had moments where the old trauma surfaced. But Jaemin was always there, patient and loving, reminding me that I was safe, that he would never be like my father. And Hyun, our beautiful, fierce daughter, had taught me that love didn't make you weak. It made you stronger, gave you something worth fighting for. "I have news," I said, turning in his arms to face him. "I went to the doctor yesterday." His expression immediately shifted to concern. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," I assured him, taking his hand and placing it on my stomach. "We're pregnant again." "About 8 weeks." The joy that lit up his face was blinding. "Really? We're having another baby?" "Really," I confirmed, smiling at his excitement. "Hyun's going to be a big sister." He picked me up and spun me around, mindful of my condition, laughing with pure happiness. Hyun looked over and squealed, running toward us. "What's happening? Why is Daddy spinning Appa?" Jaemin set me down and crouched to Hyun's level. "Because we have exciting news, princess. You're going to be a big sister." Her eyes went wide. "I'm getting a baby brother or sister?" "Yes," I said, kneeling beside Jaemin. "What do you think about that?" She threw her arms around both of us, nearly knocking us over. "I'm going to be the best big sister ever. I'll teach them to climb and fight and be strong like Appa." Jaemin and I exchanged amused looks over her head. Our daughter was definitely my child. That night, after Hyun was in bed and we lay together in the darkness, Jaemin's hand resting on my stomach where our second child was growing, I reflected on how much had changed. I'd gone from a broken, angry Omega who hated alphas to a man who had found love, built a family, and learned that strength came in many forms, including the courage to be vulnerable. "What are you thinking about?" Jaemin murmured sleepily. "About how you saved me," I admitted. "Not when I pulled you from that alley, but every day since. You saved me from myself, from my fear, from a life of loneliness. You gave me everything I never knew I needed." "You saved yourself," he corrected gently. "You made the choice to trust, to love, to build this life. I just got lucky enough to be chosen by you." I turned to face him, studying the features I'd come to love so completely. "I love you, Kang Jaemin." "I love you too, Park Duwon," he replied, using my name the way I'd kept it, a reminder that I hadn't lost myself in loving him. Forever. And as I drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the scent of cedar and smoke, with my mate's arms around me and the promise of our growing family, I knew that this was my happy ending. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Not because I'd become weak, but because I'd found the strength to love. The gangster Omega who had fought against fate had found something worth surrendering for. A family, a future, and a love that would last a lifetime. The house was finally quiet. Hyun had been particularly energetic today, running circles around both Jaemin and me until we'd finally gotten her settled into bed with her favorite stuffed tiger. Now, at nearly 10 o'clock, the only sounds were the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the distant chirping of crickets outside our bedroom window. I stood in the bathroom looking at my reflection in the mirror. 5 years since I'd first met Jaemin bleeding in that alley. 5 years since my life had completely changed. My body had changed too, the evidence of carrying Hyun still visible in the slight softness of my stomach, though I'd regained most of my muscle definition. Now, at 8 weeks pregnant with our second child, there were no visible changes yet, but I could feel it. The subtle shift in my body, the way my scent was already beginning to sweeten. "You're thinking too much again," Jaemin's voice came from behind me, his reflection appearing in the mirror as he wrapped his arms around my waist. He'd showered already, his dark hair still damp, wearing only loose sleep pants that hung low on his hips. "I'm allowed to think," I replied, leaning back against his chest. Even after all this time, the solid warmth of him still made something in my chest settle with contentment. "Thinking about what?" he murmured, his lips finding the sensitive spot behind my ear that he knew drove me crazy. "About how different my life is now," I admitted, tilting my head to give him better access. About how I never thought I'd have this. A mate, a daughter, another baby on the way. A real family. His arms tightened around me, possessive but gentle. Having regrets? Not even one, I said honestly, turning in his arms to face him. You've given me everything I never knew I needed. The look in his eyes intensified, that particular darkness that I'd learned meant he wanted me. Even after years together, after countless times we'd made love, that look still made heat pool in my lower belly, made my omega biology respond with a rush of awareness. Do-one, he said, my name a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. Do you know what you do to me? Tell me, I challenged, my hands sliding up his bare chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart under my palms. Instead of answering with words, he kissed me, deep and claiming, his tongue sliding against mine in a rhythm that was both familiar and electrifying. I responded immediately, pressing closer, feeling the evidence of his arousal against my hip. The bedroom, I managed to gasp when we broke apart. I need you, Jaemin. His eyes flashed with primal satisfaction. Always so demanding. I love that about you. He lifted me effortlessly, something that still annoyed and aroused me in equal measure, and carried me to our bed. The sheets were cool against my skin as he laid me down, following me immediately, his body covering mine in a way that felt protective and possessive all at once. You're beautiful, he murmured, his hands pushing up my shirt to reveal my stomach. His palms settled over where our second child was growing, and the tenderness in his expression made my chest tight. Carrying our child again. You're so fucking beautiful, Do-one. Stop talking and touch me, I demanded, though my voice came out breathier than intended. He smiled, that predatory smile that still made my omega instincts purr, and slowly, deliberately stripped my shirt off. His hands mapped my body with the familiarity of someone who'd touched me countless times but still found new ways to make me gasp. When his mouth closed over my nipple, I arched off the bed with a moan. Pregnancy had made me more sensitive everywhere, and he knew exactly how to exploit that, his tongue circling and teeth grazing until I was writhing beneath him. Jaemin, please, I gasped, my hands fisting in his hair. Please what? He asked against my skin, his hands working at the waistband of my sleep pants. Tell me what you want, Omega. The use of my secondary gender designation, something that would have enraged me years ago, now sent a thrill through me. Because when Jaemin called me Omega, it wasn't an insult or a claim of dominance. It was reverence, desire, love. I want you inside me, I said bluntly, never one to be coy. I want to feel you, want you to remind me that I'm yours. You've always been mine, he growled, finally removing the last barrier between us. His hand wrapped around my already hard cock, stroking slowly, his thumb swiping over the sensitive head. From the moment I woke up in your bed and saw those fierce eyes. Mine. Yours? I agreed breathlessly, my hips rocking into his touch. Just like you're mine, Alpha. The possessive claim made him groan, and suddenly his patience evaporated. He positioned himself between my thighs, his hands gripping my hips as he looked down at me with such intense desire that it stole my breath. I'm going to make love to my mate, he said, his voice rough with need. Make you feel so good that you forget everything except how much I love you. Then stop talking and do it, I challenged, though my voice shook slightly with anticipation. He didn't need to prepare me much. My omega biology had already responded to his presence, slick, making me wet and ready. But he still took his time, his fingers working inside me, stretching and finding that spot that made me see stars. Jaemin, I gasped, my hands clutching at his shoulders. If you don't get inside me right now, I swear. He swallowed the rest of my threat with a kiss and finally, positioned himself at my entrance. The first press of him inside me made us both groan. The stretch, the fullness, the absolute rightness of being connected this way. God, you feel incredible, he breathed against my neck, holding still to let me adjust despite the trembling in his muscles that showed how much control it took. Every time. Every single time with you is perfect. Move, I demanded, wrapping my legs around his waist and using the leverage to pull him deeper. I'm not fragile. I need you. He pulled almost all the way out and thrust back in hard and deep, exactly the way I liked it. The rhythm he set was perfect, controlled but intense, each thrust hitting that spot inside me that made pleasure spark through my entire body. I raked my nails down his back, leaving marks I knew would be visible tomorrow, claiming him the way he was claiming me. He responded by biting at my shoulder, not hard enough to break skin but enough to make me gasp and clench around him. Do-one, he groaned my name like a prayer, his pace increasing. You feel so good. So perfect. Mine. Yours? I gasped, my hand sliding between our bodies to stroke my own neglected cock. But he batted my hand away, replacing it with his own, stroking me in time with his thrusts. The dual sensation, him inside me and his hand on me, was overwhelming. Pleasure built in my core, coiling tighter and tighter with each movement. My omega biology sang with satisfaction, my scent filling the room with aroused jasmine and rain, mixing with his cedar and smoke until we smelled like us, like mates, like forever. I love you, Jaemin said, his voice strained, his movements becoming less controlled. I love you so much, Duwon. My mate. My omega. Mine. I love you too, I managed to say, and then his thumb pressed against the head of my cock at the same moment he hit that perfect spot inside me and I shattered. My orgasm rolled through me in waves, my body clamping down around him as I spilled between our bodies, his name a broken shout on my lips. I felt him follow me over the edge, his body going rigid, his teeth finding my mating bite and pressing down, not breaking skin, just pressure, as he released inside me, filling me with his warmth. We collapsed together, both breathing hard, our bodies still connected, covered in sweat and satisfaction. Jaemin carefully rolled us onto our sides, keeping himself inside me as he'd learned I liked, his arms wrapping around me protectively. That never gets old, he murmured, pressing kisses to my shoulder, my neck, my jaw. Better not, I replied, still trying to catch my breath. You've got me pregnant again. The least you can do is keep the sex good. He laughed against my skin. Is that all I'm good for? Getting you pregnant and sex. And killing spiders, I added, smiling despite myself. And making Hyun laugh. And holding me when I have nightmares. And, I turned my head to look at him. And loving me when I don't think I deserve it. His expression softened, his hand coming up to cup my face. You deserve everything, Duwon. Every bit of happiness, every moment of peace, every second of love I can give you. You're the strongest, bravest, most incredible person I've ever known. Stop making me emotional when you're still inside me, I complained, but my voice was thick with feeling. It's weird. Everything with us is a little weird, he pointed out reasonably. A gangster omega and a CEO alpha. But it works. It does, I agreed, settling more comfortably against him, feeling his heartbeat against my back, his arms secure around me, our child growing safely between us. It really does. We lay like that for long minutes, connected in every way, before Jaemin finally, reluctantly, slipped out of me. He got up to get a warm cloth to clean us both, gentle and thorough, taking care of me the way he always did. When we were cleaned up and settled under the covers, I found myself curled against his chest, his hand resting on my stomach, right where our second child was growing. Boy or girl, what do you think? He asked softly. Does it matter? I replied, but I was curious too. Not even a little, he said. As long as they're healthy. As long as you're healthy. We're both fine, I assured him. Strong. Just like their appa. And fierce like their other appa, Jaemin added, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. I smiled against his chest, breathing in his scent, feeling more content than I'd ever thought possible. I never thought I'd have this, I admitted quietly. Never thought I deserved love or happiness or a family. I thought I was too broken. You were never broken, Jaemin said firmly. Just hurt. And you healed, Duwon. You let yourself heal, let yourself trust, let yourself love. That took more strength than anything else you've ever done. I couldn't have done it without you, I said honestly. You saved me, Jaemin. In every way that matters. We saved each other, he corrected gently. You gave me something to fight for beyond business and power. You gave me love, a family, a reason to be more than just the ruthless CEO everyone fears. You made me human again. I tilted my head up to kiss him, slow and sweet, pouring everything I felt into the connection. When we broke apart, I settled back against his chest, feeling his arms tighten around me protectively. I love you, I whispered into the darkness. Forever. Forever, he agreed, his voice already drowsy. My fierce, beautiful omega. Mine. Yours, I confirmed, letting my eyes drift closed. Always yours. And as I fell asleep in my mate's arms, surrounded by his scent and his love, with our daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall and our second child growing safely inside me, I knew that this was my happy ending. Not because it was perfect. Not because there wouldn't be challenges ahead. But because I'd found something worth fighting for, worth living for, worth loving for. I'd found my home in the arms of an alpha who saw me not as weak or submissive, but as strong and fierce and worthy of love. The gangster omega who had never believed in fairy tales had found his own version of happily ever after. And it was better than anything I could have imagined.